Okay.
Okay, welcome back, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
We are on week 2 of our Advent devotional, which is this really wonderful devotional produced by Salt. It is using the freedom poetry of Maya Angelou. I actually listened to an interview of her explaining how she pronounces her name, and it's Maya Angelou.
Okay, because I've always heard on Maya Angelou. I'm glad to know.
I know.
Okay.
Angelou.
See what you learned by coming to Noonish Devo?
Did she
all
learn?
all kinds of stuff.
You learn all kinds of things by coming to Noonish Devo. You don't want to sound like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Maya Angelou. Okay.
But but I'm even guilty of saying Lou because it's just that, for us
I've
that
heard. Yeah.
Yeah, Lou, L-O-U.
Well, I noticed that Denise called her Maya Angelou on Sunday.
Yep, and I've been trying to. I slip sometimes back into what I thought it was, but I'm trying to say it correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our preamble.
Preamble.
In Spanish.
In Spanish. Betzy, you want to do it in Spanish?
Yes.
You don't have to memorize it, but you could read it in Spanish.
Okay.
Is this gonna be just Betzy, or are we going to all do it?
You can do it if you want in Spanish. Can you do it in Spanish?
Yeah. Let's do it, Chuck.
Tengo aquí. Lo tengo aquí.
Ah, okay.
Oh. Fancy.
¿En qué creemos? Nosotros en gracia viva, al igual que en Oakland United Methodist Church, creemos que todos merecen
ser
amados, escuchados, afirmados y respetados. De igual manera, creemos que como iglesia es posible ofrecer esto el uno al otro cuando nosotros escuchamos, aprendemos, apreciamos la diversidad, amamos a Dios por encima de todo y amamos a nuestro prójimo como a nosotros mismos. Por lo tanto, como partes individuales de la iglesia, nos comprometemos a movernos hacia esa realidad corporativa para que la iglesia pueda ser una voz para los sin voz, un hogar para el vagabundo, un respiro para los cansados, un bálsamo para el herido y la presencia de Dios en el mundo. Así sea.
En el mundo. It's really fun to listen to that in Spanish because the literal translations of words that I know in Spanish being used in certain parts is just like, that's the beauty of language, like it doesn't, like I remember reading in a textbook, this word means this, but then it's used in this context this way. It's really beautiful.
Oh, the textbooks. I'll get a textbook meaning of a word and my teacher will be like, no.
But I guess it's the same in Greek and Hebrew, right?
Yeah, for sure. Funny enough, Chuck, it's funny you say that because there are times that I'll ask you and Betzy at the same time to help me with a translation and your translations don't match.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of fun because it's like, well, there's probably there's maybe like a formalness in one and maybe a casual, like a different use of, or the word doesn't have the exact contextual meaning.
But let me tell you, I mean, translating is so difficult because it also has the region, plays a big part of it.
Yeah, that's true.
My Spanish is very different from the Spanish that they speak in Puerto Rico. And I got myself in so much trouble because the words over there are different and have a different meaning. Even things that you don't think they do. I mean, it could be an offense to them. So you have to be very mindful of that.
Yeah, I learned some terms that look innocent, and I found out that they're not so innocent.
Yeah.
If you read different translations of the Bible, there's more than one way to say something. So you could say a woman is beautiful, gorgeous, pretty. So, they all mean the same thing. There may be nuances of difference, but there are different ways to say things.
Mhm.
That's true.
I
Okay.
agree.
Let's start with the poem. If it's a kind of long poem, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. I've got it pulled up here.
Okay.
But we are on week 2, which is peace, and we are reading the poem Amazing Peace, which on this website, which is Oprah.com, it says Amazing Peace, a Christmas poem, which that's not the title that's in the devotional, which is fine. But I just thought it was interesting because there was so much imagery of Christmas that it's funny to see it actually called a Christmas poem. Okay, by Dr. Maya Angelou. Thunder rumbles in the mountain passes, and lightning rattles the eaves of our houses. Floodwaters await us in our avenues. Snow falls upon snow falls upon snow to avalanche over unprotected villages. The sky slips slow and gray and threatening. We question ourselves. What have we done to so affront nature? We worry God. Are you there? Are you there really? Does the covenant you made with us still hold? Into this climate of fear and apprehension, Christmas enters, streaming lights of joy, ringing bells of hope, and singing carols of forgiveness high up in the bright air. The world is encouraged to come away from rancor, come the way of friendship. It is the glad season. Thunder ebbs to silence and lightning sleeps quietly in the corner. Floodwaters recede into memory. Snow becomes a yielding cushion to aid us as we make our way to higher ground. Hope is born again in the faces of children that rides on the shoulders of our aged as they walk into their sunsets. Hope spreads around the earth, brightening all things, even hate, which crouches breeding in dark corridors. In our joy, we think we hear a whisper. At first, it is too soft, then only half heard. We listen carefully as it gathers strength. We hear a sweetness. The word is peace. It is loud now. It is louder, louder than the explosion of bombs. We tremble at the sound. We are thrilled by its presence. It is what we have hungered for. Not just the absence of war, but true peace. A harmony of spirit, a comfort of courtesies, security for our beloveds and their beloveds. We clap hands and welcome the peace of Christmas. We beckon this good season to wait a while with us. We, Baptist and Buddhist, Methodist and Muslim, say, come, peace. Come and fill us and our world with your majesty. We, the Jew and the Jainist, the Catholic and the Confucian, implore you to stay with us a while, so we may learn by your shimmering light how to look beyond complexion and see community. It is Christmas time, a halting of hate time. On this platform of peace, we can create a language to translate ourselves and to each other. At this holy instant, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. And to the great religions of the world, we jubilate the precious advent of trust. We shout with glorious tongues at the coming of hope. All the earth's tribes loosen their voices to celebrate the promise of peace. We, angels and mortals, believers and non-believers, look heavenward and speak the word aloud, peace. We look at our own world and speak the word aloud, peace. We look at each other, then into ourselves, and we say without shyness or apology or hesitation, peace, my brother, peace, my sister, peace, my soul.
How beautiful.
Isn't it? That's a beautiful poem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You know the phrase or the statement that took I don't know, that resonated with me a lot was that Christmas time is a halting of hate time.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, often it isn't. I mean, there are horrific crimes that are committed at Christmas time. Um, there bad things can happen at Christmas. I wish I wish it could be a halting of hate, even if it was just a little bubble.
But doesn't it appeal to this version of Christmas that you want Christmas to be?
Yeah.
And I think in my privileged life, I've had some Christmases like that where everything seems fine
hmm
and there is joy and there is I assume, like, especially as a kid, I assumed everybody else had Christmas like this.
hmm
And you kind of forget the world around you is
Yeah.
not functioning the same way you're functioning. And
hmm
I think that's one of the things, Betzy, I liked so much about the imagery in this poem is like this kind of roller coaster of like, we're not in a good place, but that we can be in a good place. And then this poem, unlike the one last week, ends on peace, whereas last
Yeah.
week it didn't end on hope, but this
Yeah.
week is like the conclusion of the ride is peace.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, it begins pretty dark.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, when I was reading the poem, I'm like, this is the COVID era.
Yeah.
I mean, it resonates with what we're living right now in this COVID pandemic, but
Yeah.
because not only because of what is out there, but what is in us. In
Mhm.
us, there could be a lot of desolation. There could be a lot of things that we are dealing with, loneliness, anger, and all of the things that can make or ride a dark place.
Yeah.
And now Christmas time arrives, and you still feel lonely, and you watch the TV and everybody's so happy, or you watch the Facebook, and the family or your friends are gathering with their families, and you're alone.
Yeah.
So
Loneliness and grief can be more
mhm.
intense at Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
and especially now that so many people have died because of
Mhm.
this
Because of COVID.
virus, and it's hard, and I mean, and it has touched me in a personal level, because I have lost very good friends,
Mm,
hmm
and dear friends. Actually, one just passed away 2 weeks ago, and it was
I'm
hard.
sorry. I'm
sorry,
sorry,
Betzy.
Betsy.
Yeah, it was hard because um there's nothing that you can do, and there's no consolation that you can offer, and there's no consolation at the time that you can feel for yourself, but to know that God is great and that she is in a better place now.
Yeah.
hmm
So I guess when I started reading this poem, I mean, I resonated with that, with
Yeah.
this dark place where we live right now, but still we find Christmas, we find the birth of Christ as our pinnacle for peace.
hmm
Do
Yeah.
sorry, Chuck, were you going to say something?
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, there's this theological conundrum I get into here about the now versus the future.
hmm
And hope and peace are hope seems a little bit more abstract in my mind because it's not, but peace seems very tangible. Like what peace looks like to me right now is like Republicans and Democrats not being jerks to each other anymore, or bodies being at peace that are not fighting this virus anymore. Like there are this word to me identifies a reality that I cannot see yet. And in some ways, I question, will I ever see it? I mean, I hope with the virus, at least we'll get vaccines and, stuff will semi return. But there are some things that I'm like, man, is peace ever going to be realized on this side of eternity?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've read that there are 50 million people that they estimate will refuse to take the vaccine.
Wow.
Um,
50 million?
50, that's the estimate, that 50 million people will refuse it, which means among that population, there'll still be a COVID outbreak. And that's a lot of people. That's 1 out of 6 people in the United
Where?
States.
In the US?
In the United States, yeah.
Mhm.
50 million people won't take it.
Now, remember that the anti-vax movement is very real and is gaining a lot of people that, I mean, I don't know. I believe each of us have the freedom to choose whatever we want to choose and however we want to act. But I don't know.
Well, and so, but this even brings up a really good point between what you guys are up and down on my screen. So between what you guys are both saying is that there are some things, and I've learned this like the older I've gotten, but also in ministry, like there are some things where there is no possibility for agreement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I have friends that are anti-vax and I love them to death.
Mhm.
And never, ever will I be able to convince them to take a
Correct.
vaccine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there has to be in that relationship some kind of peace. Otherwise, we can't be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like where I get kind of hung up is like when you can't agree, is homogeny the goal, or is there this opportunity for peace in the midst of things that are wrong?
Mm.
And that is one of the biggest things that, you know, that peace that surpasses all understanding. It's been one of the things that has kept me a Christian my whole life, because that peace is a real feeling to me in the midst of chaos or dysfunction or pain. But that's for me, how that looks like in the world, you know, like how do I get my I won't name them just for the sake of privacy, but person A and person B that I love very much that could not have voted any differently in the election. How can there be peace among them?
Yeah.
I guess that the main thing is to lose control, you know, because most of the things is because we want to be in control of a situation. You have to think the same way that I think.
Yeah.
And that's the factor that then has the situation of being difficult to deal with. Like you have to think the same way that I think in order for us to talk and discuss. We cannot agree to disagree. So when we lose that control, or that you must have to, but rather we become permissive about it, about the situation. We understand that they're choosing that path and we're okay with it. Then we can start building that bridge to have peace between person A and person B.
You know, the poem talks about that. It talks about people of different faiths coming
Yeah.
together. You know, what these different religions believe is very different.
Oh yeah.
But the poem talks about all of these different belief systems coming together.
Well, and it's
Just in Buddhist, Methodist, Muslims, they come peace.
and I think that's a hard thing to do when you think somebody else's decisions are causing damage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it's a really interesting like juxtaposition in my mind of like the freedom poetry of Maya Angelou. See? Hard.
You'll get there. You'll get
I'll
there.
get there. Which is so much about, you know, even the reflection is alongside the candle of hope, we light the candle of peace in a polarized and war-torn world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there is a definite like, we're not talking about somebody being in a bad mood versus somebody being in a good mood. We're talking about conditions that affect a person's life and their being and their sense of value, and like how that interacts with structures of power. And so like if, you know, in the way of exposing yourself to some of this work and this art and this discussion, you realize that the person on the other side of this equation for you that you can't seem to find peace with is a participant. And I'm not saying voting, I'm not saying anti-vax, like I'm not naming anything, but how do you deal with if you think that person is actually making decisions that damage other people? Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah,
Can there be-
anti-vaxxers, I mean, they're putting other people at risk. And if they get it, that causes my healthcare bill to go up because we've got to take care of them. We have to pay for them. So they're making decisions that affect other people.
And so how do you come to peace with that, Chuck?
Yeah, that's the big question. How are you at peace with that? Now you use the catchphrase agree to disagree. That raises the question, what's a deal breaker? Now, what kind of belief is a deal breaker that I can't be in communion? You know, I can't be in communion with a Holocaust denier. I can't be in a relationship with a Holocaust denier. So what's a deal breaker?
I don't know. I don't think in my perspective there's a deal breaker, because I
Okay.
mean just understanding that there is or there's a light of God within us makes me feel that there's hope that later on they can decide in a different they can decide a different route. They can decide to take a different opinion or learn or growth, or because we're not static, you know. We're always learning, and we're always choosing different things. So I mean, and it is a fight within me, you know. I have to make peace with the fact that the murderer has God's light within himself. I mean, even though I condone the act or the situation, I need to work on seeing that light inside of him.
So this is a really interesting direction we're taking, because this is something that stood out to me in the lectionary verses in 2 Peter, which is kind of this, like, basically, if we fast forward to the decision that we cannot agree and there is no peace among, like, between us, what are we responsible for at the end of the day? And in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 14, I'm sorry, let me start with 13. But in accordance with this promise, we wait for new heavens and a new earth where righteousness is at home. Therefore, beloved, while you are waiting for these things, strive to be found by him at peace, without spot or blemish, and regard the patience of our Lord as salvation. I mean, there's more there, but I'm just gonna stop there.
Oh, let me walk it back a little bit. A Holocaust denier. I can have a conversation with a person like that. I can reach out to a person, a Holocaust denier, but I can't really be truly in fellowship with a person like that. I can't imagine really and truly having much of a friendship. Now, you say you have some anti-vaxxers that you love.
I do.
Right? You love them. Okay. So how do you get past the idea that their actions could cause the death of somebody else?
Well, there's a series of questions that happen in my head first. First is, what if they're right? What if our bodies are actually strong enough, and when fed properly and provided the right nutrition, we can naturally fight this disease? There's always a percentage of doubt in my head that maybe I'm wrong. Remember, we talked about this at one point in a devotional. So there's that. And then I kind of swing hard to the other side in the sense of, But the reality of making sure that everybody has what they need to even test the idea that our bodies are strong enough to do it on their own is
Mhm.
impossible.
Mhm.
There's not enough money in the world to provide everybody with distilled ionized water with electrolytes in it and organic, you know, plant-based,
Vegetables.
gluten-free supplements and organic grass-fed chicken and butter. I mean, like there's not enough resource, or there's not enough interest to put the resource into providing everybody with the maximum amount of natural things to make them healthy. So then after I get through that, I'm like, then you have to address what the problem is right now. And the problem is right now, people are dying. And so, once I get to that point, sometimes it comes out as an outburst of like, are you kidding me? You think this? People are dying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes out as questioning of like, okay, you said this. How does that play out when you don't vaccinate your children and your children get sick? Or what happens when your child is born with a congenital condition or defect that you cannot control?
Mhm.
So I guess it's outbursts, inquiry. And then at the end of that, if we're still not on the same page or we can't have a civil discussion, then it is find commonality in another area of our relationship.
Okay. Yeah, there are members of my family that I can talk to as long as we avoid certain subjects.
Yep. Isn't that frustrating though? I mean, don't
Yeah.
you want to engage the people you love?
Mhm.
Don't you? I mean, we do that all the time
Yeah.
when we do coffee with pastors, when we do grow study. I mean, we have a diverse set of people at Oak Lawn, but we tend to
Mhm.
kind of group sometimes just naturally in groups of people that believe similarly.
Mhm.
And we love to share our outrage or our frustration in the way we see the world being oppressed,
Mhm.
because we love to engage each other and we happen to have the same beliefs. It's not like we're ganging up on people.
Yeah.
That's a human thing.
Well,
Like-
those of us who believe a certain way need to vent. We need to feel the support. We need to feel affirmed and supported by other people,
Mhm.
because the world can be a hostile place.
Yeah.
And so it's like we get in our group, Grow Study or Coffee with Pastors, you say it happens there too. And it's like we need a place to vent. We need somebody who will listen without judging us or without contradicting us.
Or who will listen and agree with us, affirm
Yeah.
us, right? Like affirmation, that's part of our preamble. Affirmation is
Mhm.
an important part of our developing our identity or developing our stance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know
So-
what? I mean, that's also part of being or having emotional intelligence. I mean, you have to feel the emotion, because the emotion is there, is part of our toolbox that God prepared us with. But if we don't uh, if we don't hold to that emotion, so it doesn't become a sentiment. I mean, you can feel the anger. You can feel the anger. You can let it flow and vent and talk to somebody and have this healthy discussion about it. But as long as you don't hold to that anger, that it becomes something else, like a sentiment embedded within you, that you always snap at a situation like that, then I mean, it's fine.
Well, so then what does she mentions this in the poem? We look at each other, then into ourselves, and we say without shyness or apology or hesitation, peace, my brother, peace, my sister, which is what we're kind of stuck on right now. But I think it's interesting. This comes up every time we talk, because I think we're probably encountering this on a daily. But peace, my soul.
Yeah.
So there is this sense of
Internal peace.
internal peace.
Mhm.
Which one of these things do you think there's an order to these? Peace, I mean, not in terms of gender, peace my brother, peace my sister.
Yeah, right.
But do you think there's an order to like peace outward, peace inward, or peace inward, peace outward?
If you cannot have peace within you, you're not going to see the peace out there, because whatever is inside is outside.
But do you think you could you could be taught by somebody else's peace?
Then it's not really peace. You're just mimicking, isn't it? It's the same, for example, with the spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow a base, you can follow a religion, you can follow a practice, but a true spirituality has to be within you and God.
Yeah, I'm tempted to say inside of us is the only thing we can control. But then I get caught in this trap. Well, how do I sit and feel a sense of peace in myself when I know so many bad things are going on? But yet you can see that in Jesus, that when there's a storm around him, he's asleep in the boat.
Yes.
He's asleep in the boat.
That's what I'm thinking of too, is how many times have I received peace because the person next to me is not freaking out?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I can name at least 1 or 2 times in Lebanon with Rachel where things got a little hairy and I looked at her and she was just like
chilling.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not that she didn't know. It's not that it wasn't scary, but it was just like, we're not going to freak out.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same energy with like, well, I hate to boil it down to animals, but dogs. You know, like when you're handling an animal, if you're anxious and nervous and so that's what I meant, Betzy, by like following somebody else's peace, like, and how do you let that inform what is happening in here? I do tend to, when I think about that question of the direction of it, I mean, it ends up just being a circle, right? Like peace within goes to peace out towards other people. And then maybe that peace affects them in a way that, and I think that's a huge part of like our responsibility of evangelism is to introduce this peace to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a sense of the peace I have should affect the peace you have.
Should we then have peace by default because we know Christ?
In the Gospel of John, Jesus says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives, give I unto you. So it's something the world can't give you.
Right.
He says, in the world you'll have trouble, but rejoice, I have overcome the world. So, I'm sorry?
I said, I like the translation where it says, take heart, I've overcome the world.
Yeah, take heart, I've overcome the world. Yeah. So this sense that individually and in the church, you can have peace even with turmoil in the world, but the true peace is creation-wide. The true meaning of shalom is when all of creation exists in peace. But we can feel it on an individual level and within the church even before that happens.
It's really interesting when you, you know, because idiomatically shalom has been used as a greeting. It's like, hello, goodbye. But, and so the casualness of that kind of, you know, it's made me not really take that word seriously. But when you're wishing somebody shalom, that is like the most complete amount of peace you can ask for somebody to have.
Yeah.
And I like how my Dr. Heller, when I took, I think this was in our Old Testament class, he talked about shalom as being translated, the way it should be translated is that everything is as it should be.
Yes, right.
And so when you wish somebody shalom, you're kind of saying, or when you say hello, I mean, maybe it's not this direct of a translation, but you're really saying like, man, I wish in your life that everything is as it should be. Which, what does that look like when we say that to an anti-vax person? Couldn't that, I mean, going out on a limb here, don't get mad at me. Could that mean that I wish for you that your body does what you believe it can do?
Why not?
Right?
Mhm.
Well, yes, but
Yes.
yes, but
Yes, but
if they influence somebody else to not get vaccinated, and that other person isn't as physically strong, or doesn't, I mean, some people, it's like they're sort of immune to it, or they're asymptomatic even if they're exposed. Somebody
that
else.
doesn't mean they're immune.
I'm sorry.
That doesn't mean they're immune.
That's true. That's true. But they're asymptomatic, and somebody else might not be.
Right?
You know, Sweden tried that. Your anti-vaxxers, do they believe in herd immunity?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sweden tried that and it didn't work.
Well, yeah, there's been like projections of what it would take if herd immunity worked, like the percentage of how many people would die.
Yeah, millions of people would die
it's
first.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
We would get there. We would eventually get there, but millions of people would die first.
well, if we could eventually get there, this would have to happen.
Yeah,
I'm not certain. Well, I don't know. I don't know science well enough or infectious disease well enough, but at the rate this virus is going, I would be like,
yeah.
Especially when it's a virus that you can't detect symptoms. I mean, that is the single most scary thing about COVID to me. But I do, okay. Because there is a sense in this poem that things are not as they should be, but we will have shalom anyway.
Yeah, it starts off very dark, a thunderstorm and snowfall, an avalanche, and then that's where Christmas comes, is in the middle of that.
Well, and then she says the peace that sounds louder than an explosion of bombs.
Yeah.
Like, wow. What is it? I mean, what does that mean? What does it mean to set off a peace bomb? Tiffany Little online, she says, on Facebook says, I think you have to find peace with your soul first, and sometimes that means fellowshipping with those that take your peace. Not forever, but choosing small interactions and limiting. Or you could just become angry and lose the ability to give. So there's what she brings up is this interesting point of, you get peace, how do you maintain it?
Yeah. How do you stay there?
Yeah. But I really am like, what, like, if we could paint a picture based on this poem of like this darkness, and then all of a sudden this diversity coming together to be able to speak shalom to each other. Sounds like I'm leading us, and I'm not trying to, just trying to call imagery from the poem. What does that look like for, and maybe it's not collective, maybe it's different for each of us. Chuck, maybe it's not the anti-vaxxers for you. But what do you think? What would it look like for you to sincerely believe in shalom for yourself and others?
The thing that gets me is people who are in denial. Trying to have a conversation with them, trying to talk to them. Yeah, they're the ones who get me angry. And I know if I'm just angry, if I just react, I'm not going to help anything. And yet, it's the people who aren't at peace who often seem to make the most difference. I mean, the people who are out protesting, or, how is a protest march, or how is so many other things that Oaklawn does with their marches and their statements and things like that don't seem peaceful, but yet they're necessary. They're important. Now, you can argue that they come from a center of peace, that they're not, that you have to be at peace with yourself before you can go out and protest, before you can go out and justice.
Do you think protests are, therefore, beloved, while you are waiting for these things, strive to be found by him at peace without spot or blemish?
Let's say it again.
Do you think that, like, I think sometimes we can get hung up on peace being inactive, like for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, those, peace sometimes
Yeah.
imagery wise, like it means you're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Protesting is very active.
Right.
And so I wonder if protesting is a response to you or Pat or Rachel's, while waiting for God's finality, that
Mm-hmm.
you are striving to be found at peace by God without spot or blemish. Like it's you acting on
Mm-hmm.
the peace you've come to understand.
Well, Jesus did overturn the tables of the money changers.
Yes, I know. Everybody loves to use that when Jesus
Right.
got violent, Jesus got
Yeah.
crunk.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always the we tend to forget it, but then we tend to bring it up whenever we want to justify something that we've done. Um, Protesting is a reaction against the absence of peace or something that has destroyed peace.
Hmm.
Somebody else's peace, oftentimes, and sometimes even our own. We go out and protest because it's our own. So it is a pursuit of peace, and that's in Dr. Heller's sense.
Hmm.
It's a pursuit of peace. It may not arise from a peacefulness within us, but we need that peacefulness. We need the peaceful place in order to heal.
Yeah.
So
Ooh, that's good.
you asked us to choose one of the activities, and so
Yeah.
what I did was I went to the most peaceful place I could think of, given how cold it is, and I went to the prayer room in Selectman Hall and just sat there for a little bit. And we need that. We need that peacefulness
Hmm.
in order to keep going. It's healing.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So your peace is an internal peace.
That is one aspect of peace. One aspect of peace
Yeah.
is finding a peacefulness that heals so that I'm able to go out and do the things that don't require peacefulness, that don't require what we ordinarily think of as peacefulness.
It's just that peace has many different sections, isn't it?
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
you have internal peace, you have God's peace, you have world's peace. And in order to find that peace, you need to be an agent of change, because it doesn't matter that everything is fine within you. You have to understand and come to sense that we're all united. We are all in this bubble of a world. And if your environment is not fine, or if you cannot have peace, that should bother me, because you're not okay. So that's the sense of going through a protest, because um, it doesn't matter that I don't have any kids, so that the kids in cages in Laredo should not bother me. That's not the case.
Mhm.
We should be
Oh yeah.
being bothered because of that, because it's inhumane, because
Mhm.
even though I don't have kids, it bothers me because it is somebody else's kids, or because it is just a human being have been in that situation. So yes, we need to be agents of change to find peace for them, hence finding peace for me as well.
Yeah.
It kind of means also that we have to allow our peace to be interrupted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, one, we got to know what it feels like to be at peace, but also when that peace is disturbed or violated,
hmm
to
And
pay attention.
that's part of empathy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, feel what the other person is feeling, and be uh, in their shoes.
Yeah, we have to go to the place of peace and heal, but then if the phone rings and something bad has happened and we need to mobilize, then yeah, it interrupts our peace.
Mhm.
That was something that I read about in the Isaiah verse. And I was pulling up, Chuck, I have the Robert Alter translations. And so I was going to pull it up. I can't read it and talk at the same time. I should have thought to do this before. But I did read about how in the Isaiah verses, this leveling of ground and this making straight the way, the path of the Lord, making way a straight path for the Lord. I'm saying it wrong. But anyway, was speaking to the people who had become complacent in their time of exile.
Right.
Like people that did not want to come out of it.
They built a life for themselves. Why go back to a pile of rubble
Yeah.
in Jerusalem?
Yeah. Which I think that's a really interesting verse to use for the week of Advent. Because there's a lot of unrest in that whole period of history of they've been indentured in servitude in some ways, and some of them have created these lives in different cities and different cultures. Their village or their home or their city or whatever, their temple, has their temple been destroyed? They don't have a temple yet, do they?
Yeah, temple's been destroyed. That's what Ezra does. He goes back and rebuilds the temple. The Solomonic temple has been destroyed.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so Ezra goes back and guides the rebuilding of the temple.
Yeah. And there's not a lot, like, you think about being at peace in the midst of all that, that would be tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be really tough. But at the same time, there is this imagery of like a flattening out of, I mean, at least the way
of obstacles, yeah.
Of obstacles, but also of like social structures. Like the valleys don't exist anymore. The peaks don't exist anymore. Like everything is going to be made level. And I don't know, maybe you can tell me this, Chuck. I don't know that that's a reference to specifically that time. I almost wonder if Isaiah is talking about a future time of someday under God's direction, have faith that none of this hierarchical social structure crap is going to exist anymore. It'll just, there will be equality, there will be provision, there will be what we need, there will be shalom. Everything will be as it should be.
My understanding of second Isaiah is he's calling Israel to claim its identity again. And of course, part of that identity is the idea that they do away with these social structures. The vision of Amos, that everybody has enough.
Yeah. Yeah, the vision of Amos. Well, let's spend the last 13 minutes talking about our spiritual practice. Did y'all do your spiritual practice last week?
Yep.
Yep. How'd it go?
Chuck, you want to go first? Well,
Well,
no, it's just that he mentioned he went to the Perot Museum. So
I was confused. I mean, the one that I said I would do is one from last week with Hope. I said I would read the poem, Hope is the Thing with Feathers. So I did that. And I did one for this week, which is to go to the most peaceful place I could think of. So Hope is the Thing with Feathers. These beautiful images, a bird that perches in the soul. So it seems kind of a fragile thing. Birds don't perch for very long. They perch and they fly off, usually. But the very last line is what got to me. And yet never in extremity, it asked a crumb of me. Because I think hope does ask something of us. I think hope takes courage. Hope takes, making decisions, making action. So I think hope does demand something of us. So I wasn't quite sure with that, how to regard that.
Hmm.
You know, in the Grove study, the part of the poem that we got stuck on, Joey explained it perfectly. You know, we were wondering about the Pakistani woman, the work of the
Yeah.
Pakistani
Oh,
woman,
yeah.
that it's a rug lying on the floor of her cell, and she's watching the light go across it. It's the work of a Pakistani woman. This
Oh,
Pakistani woman has made this rug. It's lying on the floor, and she watches the light go across it. So I just want to bring that up.
oh, that's cool. I like
Yay for
that. Thanks
Joey.
for, yeah, thanks, Joey. Cool. Well, I did the stand in the tallest place you could find. I kind of cheated because I had an idea of going to a parking garage, but I didn't get there. So I,
Mhm.
in the top floor of my condo, I stood out. We have these big picture windows off my bedroom,
Mhm.
and they look into the trees. And so often when I'm praying there, I look into the trees as if I'm looking for God. And so I sat there and said that. And it probably would have been more powerful if I was actually on the highest place.
Mhm.
But there is, I was struck at how visual of a person I am when I experience God. Like I
Okay.
like to see the trees moving and I like to see the light shine through them. And when I read that verse, I really think about like this peeling back of the skies opening up. And I do think there is going to be something visual at the end of age, something, I don't know if I'm going to be here for it or not, but yeah, it's just a very real physical request. So
Cool.
how about you, Betsy?
Well, I did the meditation.
Uh-huh.
So one thing that struck me was to find or now perceive that hope is a tool. I believe in the pyramid of the conscious. So the pyramid of the consciousness is you have like 4 pillars or 4 different stages, steps. The one below is the survival, meaning
Mhm.
that everything is against you and or you are against somebody. The second one is the co-creation. Third one is permission, and the fourth one is the Christ heart. So, in order for you to obtain the illumination or to have this centeredness, mindfulness, obviously you strive to be on the fourth step, the Christ mind.
Mhm.
So, when I was meditating about hope, I perceived that it is a tool that you can find in the third step, which is permission, because even though you are an agent of change, even though you protest, even though you see the the dark place or world, however you want to see it, you know that everything is going to be okay. You
Mhm.
know that at the end there's shalom. You know, everything is as it should be. So that is hope. That is being on the third pillar, which is everything. If everything happens, is for a reason, and everything is a good reason. At the end, is going to be good. So even though you see a flat tire
Mhm.
in your car, it's okay because there's a reason behind it. It may be that you're going to have an accident, and because of that, now you have to spend 30 minutes fixing that tire, which allows you to get into a different path of what you were going. So at the end, it's okay.
Mhm.
So when we really make peace with hope, then we can get that shalom in its fullness.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. What practices do you want to pick for this next week?
And so
They
did I do
are-
it? Did I do it wrong? Were we supposed to go? Are we supposed to do a peace practice for this week? This week before next week? Okay. So I'll do another one.
Okay.
I'll have to choose. I don't know which one I'll choose, but I'll do one of them.
Okay, where are the
I can read them.
activities?
I'll read them. You can light 2 candles and say a prayer, breathe in peace, breathe out peace. Betsy, you can't do this one. Okay, you can challenge yourself to be a peacemaker and take a step towards reconciliation in a relationship. Send a card, reach out or call. You can use one of these conversation starters. What is Maya Angelou's true peace actually look like? What are primary obstacles we face in building a peaceful world? How can we create or lengthen a halting of time, hate time in our lives and hearts? You can read A Brave and Startling Truth by Maya Angelou and Making the House Ready for the Lord by Mary Oliver. You can connect with somebody who belongs to another religion and wish them the best wishes for the holiday they celebrate, or in any case for a happy and healthy new year. Get out into creation and visit the most peaceful spot you know, which is what you did, Chuck.
You're done. Yeah.
Savor God's peace and watch God's glory. This one's a long one. Peace can be found when we listen closely to our feelings. Many people use an if feelings could talk chart to help figure out what's happening emotionally and what next steps might make most sense. Sadness might be telling me I need to cry. Loneliness, that I need connection. Resentment, that I need to forgive. Emptiness, that I need some creative time. Happiness, that I need to say thank you. Anger, that I need to check in on my boundaries. Stress, that I need some Sabbath. Start an intentional, if feelings could talk conversation with family or friends, with or without a chart. What are you feeling and what next steps make sense? Or the last option is pick a day this week or a part of a day for a silent, unplugged retreat. No screens, no devices, no speaking, no problem solving, just pure rejuvenating peace.
Wow.
I'm gonna do 2
Okay.
because I like both of these. I like the if feelings could talk,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and I like the pick a part of the day to unplug.
I'll read one of the 2 poems: A Brave and Startling Truth or Making the House Ready for the Lord.
Okay.
Mine is going to be a little bit difficult because I know, well, and we were talking about it today when you have to, person A, person B that cannot agree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So as you guys know, my family, well, part of my family is a Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
So this season is quite challenging for half of the family because you have half of the family decorating and making dinner and making plans and everything, and then the other one being completely opposite to the idea, even the idea of it.
Mhm.
So I'll go ahead and strike a conversation.
Ooh, Betsy.
Okay. We'll look forward to hearing about that next week.
So you're gonna do
Yeah.
a conversation starter. Good for you. That's super bold. Good for
Yeah.
you. Being a peacemaker.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Chuck, would you like to pray us out?
Sure. Most gracious God, we don't understand peace. We often don't feel peace, and we certainly don't see peace in our world. But we know that you have promised us peace. May we continue to struggle with understanding peace, but may we go to you to experience peace. May that peace be healing, and may that peace motivate us to seek peace in our world. We thank you for those who have joined us today. We thank you for each other, the 3 of us. We thank you for this time. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Bye, Facebook.
Bye,
See y'all next-
everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining.